Once upon a time in a place not so far away, there was a house. It was just an old abandoned farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in rural America, just a regular old abandoned farmhouse. Except it wasn't just any farmhouse. The locals claimed it was cursed, that it fed on those who entered, trapping their souls inside forever. So they called it the house that whispers. Hey, I'm here to show you this house, and let me warn you, do not go inside. But if you do go inside, don't say I didn't warn you. Oh, and also be careful, because the last people who went in there, well, no one knows what happened to them, which is why you should definitely not go in there. Anyways, let's go. It was a cold winter's night. Rain lashed against the window panes and wind howled through the bare branches of the gnarled old oak tree that loomed over the farmhouse. Below its twisted roots, four friends trudged through the mud. Their breath plumed in the frigid air as they walked. They were all bundled up, hats, scarves, and gloves, but nothing could warm them up now. Not even the glow of the lone street lamp that flickered at the end of the road like a dying ember. It cast long, grotesque shadows that danced macabrely around the foursome. They had come to this forsaken place seeking a good scare, a night of ghost hunting in the infamous house that whispers. Its reputation preceded it. Stories of strange lights seen in its windows late at night, phantom footsteps heard in its halls. And some even claimed they'd seen shadowy figures standing at the window watching them, beckoning for them to come inside. No one had lived in the house for decades, not since the old Jenkins family vanished without a trace. Their home was left to decay, swallowed by the creeping vines and the whispering woods. The friends came to find out what secrets it held, to uncover the truth behind the legend. Now standing before its rusted gate, their laughter died in their throats. The house loomed over them, a looming silhouette against the stormy sky. As if sensing their presence, the wind suddenly picked up, swirling around them in a cold vortex. The trees moaned and the rain poured down in torrents. It was as though the very house was reaching out to them, desperate and hungry. They pushed open the creaking gates and stepped inside. Their car's headlights cut through the oppressive darkness, revealing a long driveway bordered by gnarled trees. It was like something out of a nightmare, but they pressed on, their hearts pounding in their chests, their eyes scanning the gloom for any sign of movement. They could hear the wind whistling through the broken window panes like a mournful cry. The old house groaned under the onslaught of the wind and rain. They finally reached the front door, an imposing wooden barrier studded with rusty nails. It looked like the mouth of a hungry beast waiting to devour its prey. Taking a deep breath, they knocked, the sound echoing ominously in the stillness. Then they waited, the seconds ticking by like hours. They heard a low rumble, like the distant growl of a wild animal, and the door creaked open as if beckoning them inside. Stepping into the house, they found themselves in a dark and dusty hallway. Cobwebs brushed against their faces as they moved forward, and the stench of decay hung heavy in the air. It felt like they were being watched, every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind sending shivers down their spines. They could hear each other's breathing, the only sound besides the raging storm outside. As they explored deeper into the house, they found strange markings on the walls, crude drawings of shadowy figures with glowing eyes. Some of the images were disturbingly familiar, almost as if they were witnessing a ritual of some kind. The air grew colder, and they could feel the weight of unseen eyes boring into their backs. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes. Time had lost all meaning here in this house of whispers. They found strange whispers in the house, disembodied voices that seemed to drift from the walls themselves. They tried to make sense of the words, but they were too distorted, too ancient. Yet there was one phrase that cut through the static like a shard of glass, a warning, a threat, leave while you still can, but they couldn't leave. Not now. Not when they were so close to the truth. They had come too far. Besides, what was there to be afraid of? An old abandoned house. Yeah, right. Then they heard it again, a whisper, closer this time, right outside the door. They stood frozen as the whispering grew louder. The door began to shake. Then it burst open, and they stared into the abyss. The whispering intensified, forming words, forming sentences. It was the old Jenkins, the former inhabitants of this house. They were trapped here, tormented, and they wanted the visitors to know their pain. They had meant no harm, these ghosts, they just wanted to share their story, to tell their tale of woe. But the more they listened, the weaker they became. The whispers were draining their strength, their will to live. The ghosts were feeding on their life force, drawing them into the darkness. As the night wore on, the whispers grew more frequent, more insistent. The very walls of the house seemed to be vibrating with their voices. The friends huddled together, trying to find comfort in their shared fear, but it was no use. The house was closing in on them, crushing them with its oppressive presence, and then one of them vanished. They searched frantically for him, calling his name until their voices were hoarse, but he was gone. The house had taken him, consumed him, and now they were afraid to move, afraid to speak. But then the whispers started again, and they knew what they had to do. They had to find the source of the whispers, the heart of the darkness that resided in this house. The ghost of the missing friend, weak and translucent, appeared before them, beckoning for them to follow. Trusting that he meant them no harm, they followed his spectral form deeper into the bowels of the house. They found him in the basement, amidst a labyrinth of cobwebs and dust. He was kneeling before a small altar, his eyes vacant, his body slowly fading away like smoke. Beside him lay a book bound in human skin. Its pages were filled with strange symbols and incantations. This was the source of the house's power, the key to its dark mysteries. But before they could decipher its secrets, the ground rumbled beneath their feet. The house was coming alive, stirring in its slumber, and they could feel its hunger, its insatiable need to consume. Its victims had become one with the house, their spirits merged with its very essence. The friends fled, racing through the twisting corridors, their hearts pounding in their chests. They could hear the house groaning behind them, its voice a mixture of creaking wood and tortured souls. They stumbled out into the night, the fresh air stinging their lungs. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of their car, collapsing inside, trembling with fear. As dawn broke, they fled the house, leaving behind the whispers and the darkness. The house stood silent, its secrets buried deep within its walls. But as they drove away, they could have sworn they heard the whispers following them, slithering through the trees, "Leave while you still can," and they never stopped whispering.